The first time I lied to my followers, I told myself it was harmless. Emily said, "It's just one post, nobody will know." But I felt a chill because even as I typed the caption, I knew I was rewriting my life. My fingers shook when I pressed publish, the screen glowing with the lie I crafted. David said, "Relax, this is the game, and everyone plays it." His smile was confident, but his eyes cut through me like he knew the lie was poison. Jessica said, "You'll thank yourself later when the sponsors notice." I forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow even to me. My phone buzzed with comments, hearts, and fire emojis that wrapped around me like chains. In that moment, the mask was born, and I couldn't take it off again. I whispered to myself, "They don't love me. They love her." The ghost in the glass smiled back at me, and I began to vanish into her shadow. Every notification screamed approval, but my chest felt heavy, suffocated by the truth I buried. The silence in my room was deafening between the pings. I knew this wasn't just a post. It was the beginning of my undoing. I told myself it was nothing. Emily said, "One lie won't hurt." But the silence after the likes faded was unbearable. I sat in my room with the glow of the screen haunting me. David said, "Numbers don't lie, you're winning." His voice was sharp, but I felt like I was losing myself. Jessica said, "This is what everyone dreams of, don't waste it." Yet my heart raced, each beat screaming it wasn't me they loved. The fans wrote endless comments, but none of them knew me. I felt trapped in the very applause I craved. I whispered into the empty air, "Who am I, if not her?" The answer never came, only the echo of my own lie. The rise was quick, intoxicating. Emily said, "I can't stop now." Each post drew me deeper. The applause grew louder, and so did the silence after. David said, "Keep feeding them, they'll eat it up." Jessica said, "This is the version of you that matters." My phone became my mirror, and I couldn't recognize the face without filters. Fans adored me, but the ghost of who I was whispered, "You're fading." Every lie I posted pulled me further from myself, but closer to fame. It felt like a new identity. Emily said, "This is who I meant to be." My voice trembled even as I believed it. David said, "No one cares about truth, only the image." Jessica said, "Look at the doors opening for you." The world cheered for the ghost, not me. The mask was perfect, but every second I wore it, I felt the real me drowning. I smiled for the camera, but inside I screamed, "Please see me." The first taste of fame was sweet, but bitter underneath. Emily said they finally see me. But it wasn't me at all. David said, "This is just the beginning, imagine what's next." Jessica said, "You're unstoppable now." My notifications exploded, and the world shouted my name, but the silence inside me screamed louder. I stared at the reflection of my online self, bright and flawless, while my real face blurred in the shadows. The ghost said, "I am you now." When the ring light fades, silence wraps around me like a heavy blanket. Emily said, "This room feels colder without the comments." My eyes drift across empty walls where posters once hung, now blank reminders of who I was. David said, "You're too sensitive, they adore you." His words pressed like chains, not comfort. Jessica said, "This is the dream. Why does it hurt?" I looked at her, but the answer clawed in my chest. I whispered, "Because they don't follow me, they follow her." The echo bounced in the stillness, louder than any applause. My phone lay dark, a mirror of my hollow self. Each second stretched, heavy, suffocating, reminding me that the crowd's roar fades, but loneliness never leaves. The ghost whispered, "I am all that remains." I pressed my palms to my face, praying to feel real again. The applause doesn't fill the silence, it makes it deeper. Emily said, "I can hear my own breath like it's mocking me." David said, "Post again, drown the emptiness." His tone was sharp, like he believed silence was weakness. Jessica said, "You're loved by millions, but I miss my friend." Her voice cracked, and my chest ached. I stared at the ghost on my phone, her smile bright, flawless, but not mine. The loneliness cut sharp edges into my nights. I whispered, I'd trade every like for one real touch. The room swallowed the words, leaving only the soft hum of electronics. Fame gave me eyes on me, but never arms around me. The ghost said, you chose me over them. My hands shook as I typed another post, chasing shadows of affection. Fame promised connection, but it delivered isolation. Emily said, every message feels like a performance, not love. David said, stop whining, they worship you. His words dripped with irritation. Jessica said, they don't know her, only the mask. My throat burned at her truth. I longed for laughter without screens, hugs without cameras. Yet the crowd screamed louder, demanding more. The ghost whispered, you gave yourself away. I wanted to scream back, but no sound came. My reflection in the dark window was thinner, hollow, like even my body was disappearing into the persona. I whispered, I miss myself. The silence that answered was cruel, louder than any betrayal. Even family felt distant now. Emily said, I can't talk to them without hearing their expectations. David said, they're proud, use it. His smirk twisted pride into profit. Jessica said, you're more than numbers. But I couldn't feel it. Phone calls with my parents ended with silence, their voices unfamiliar. My fame built walls higher than distance. I whispered, do they even see me anymore? The ghost answered, they see her, not you. My chest ached with every word unsaid. The love I craved was buried under the lie I built. Even at family dinners, their eyes glimmered with pride at her. The ghost, not Emily. I sat across the table, invisible, fading into filtered light. The ghost never left. Emily said, she follows me everywhere. In mirrors, in screens, even in my dreams. David said, that's your brand, embrace it. His words were commands, not advice. Jessica said, I miss the girl I met before all this. My throat closed with grief. The ghost whispered, I'm the only version they'll ever love. I pressed my palms against glass, begging to break free. The hollowness grew heavy, crushing my chest. Fame gave me everything, but it stole my reflection. I whispered, I don't know who I am anymore. The silence after was unbearable, the truth undeniable. I wasn't living, I was performing, even when no one was watching. The deals came faster than I could breathe. Emily said, I don't even use this product. David said, they'll pay you $10,000, stop asking questions. His tone was ice, sharp and final. Jessica said, this isn't you, Emily. Her words cracked against the glass walls of my growing empire. I looked at the brand contract, my signature trembling, as if it was signing away more than paper. Fans cheered every new sponsorship, blind to the truth choking me. I whispered, what if they find out? The ghost laughed inside my head, a cruel reminder that I was already too deep. My chest tightened with the weight of selling lies dressed as dreams. David said, you're not an influencer, you're a business. And with every deal, I felt less like myself and more like the product. The betrayal didn't come from strangers. Emily said, you were supposed to protect me. Jessica said, I tried, but they never listened. Her voice trembled with guilt. David said, she's not strong enough without me. My chest burned as their words collided like glass breaking. Jessica had shared secrets I trusted her with, and now I saw them weaponized in contracts, campaigns, even in whispers from the rival waiting in the dark. I whispered, you sold me out. Jessica said, I didn't mean to. I thought it would help. But the damage was done. The ghost whispered, even the ones closest to you want pieces of her, not you. Loneliness curled inside my bones, sharper than knives, heavier than any crowd. Every day felt like a stage I couldn't leave. Emily said, I'm so tired of smiling. David said, the audience doesn't care if you're tired. His words snapped like a whip. Jessica said, she's breaking. Can't you see it? Her voice cracked with desperation. My face ached from grins that weren't mine. My heart pounded every time the camera turned on, like it was demanding another sacrifice. I whispered, "I just want to breathe." But the crowd demanded more, always more. The ghost whispered, "You built this prison yourself." I felt my body stiffen with every fake laugh, every perfect angle, every empty promise. Performance became survival, and survival felt like dying slowly. The crowd began to notice cracks. Emily said, "Why are they asking if I'm lying?" Comments piled like stones against my chest. David said, "Ignore it. They'll forget." Jessica said, "Truth doesn't stay buried forever." Her voice was soft, but sharp enough to cut. Screens filled with accusations, edits, theories, each one clawing closer to the truth. I whispered, "They can see through me." My phone buzzed with constant alerts, the love I once drowned in now turning to suspicion. The ghost whispered, "They're finally seeing me, not you." My stomach twisted, my hands shook, as the empire trembled under the weight of one lie too many. The lies demanded more lies. Emily said, "If I stop now, it all falls apart." David said, "Then don't stop. They don't care as long as it looks good." His tone was iron, unbending. Jessica said, "You're breaking yourself for this mask." My hands shook as I typed captions, stacked on foundations already cracking. Fans cheered, unaware they were standing on ruins. I whispered, "I can't stop lying, can I?" The ghost whispered, "No, because I'm stronger than you now." My chest burned with shame as I hit publish again, feeding the machine with another false smile. The applause grew louder, and yet the silence inside me screamed until I thought it might split me apart. Betrayal came from the one I trusted most. Emily said, "Jessica, how could you?" Jessica said, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her eyes filled with tears, but my chest burned with rage. David said, "You're surprised? Everyone has a price." His smirk twisted the knife deeper. Jessica had leaked secrets I gave her in whispers, now splashed across headlines. I whispered, "You were supposed to protect me." The ghost whispered, "Even love becomes betrayal when it's built on lies." The room spun, heavy with the weight of broken trust. I felt my heart fracture, each beat jagged, each breath shallow. Jessica reached for me, but I pulled back into the shadows, knowing the mask had consumed even friendship. The rival rose from my ashes. Emily said, "She's using my fall to climb." David said, "That's how this game works." His voice was sharp, cold. Jessica said, "She isn't better than you." But my feeds overflowed with her smiling face, flawless and victorious. Fans shifted their love, their loyalty paper thin, their devotion fickle. I whispered, "Was I ever real to them?" The ghost said, "You were only a shadow to begin with." My stomach twisted as I watched the rival bask in my downfall. Every rumor fueling her crown. The cheers that once drowned me now belonged to someone else, and the silence left me suffocating. Even my family wasn't innocent. Emily said, "You pushed me into this life." A voice from the table echoed with pride, "We only wanted success." David said, "They used you just like I did." Jessica said, "Emily, you deserved better." My chest hollowed as I realized the empire I built was never mine. It was theirs. Contracts with my father's name, emails sent by my mother, all orchestrating my downfall. I whispered, "Even my blood saw me as a product." The ghost said, "You gave them permission when you put me on the screen." My hands trembled as I looked across the table, faces of family glowing with pride while my heart shattered. The crowd that once lifted me now tore me apart. Emily said, "They're hunting me like prey." David said, "This is what you signed up for." Jessica said, "They don't know the truth." My screens overflowed with hate, hashtags demanding my end, edits twisting every smile into venom. I whispered, "Why do they love watching me burn?" The ghost whispered, "Because you were never real to them." The voices blended into a roar, faceless but merciless. I felt my identity unravel thread by thread, stripped bare under the world's gaze. Fame had given me their love, but their hate was louder, sharper, and it left no room to breathe. The final twist shattered everything. Emily said, "She wasn't me at all." The ghost whispered, "I am the one they adore." David said, "No one cares who you really are." Jessica said, "Emily, don't let her take you." But the truth was clear. The person on the screen, the one adored and envied, was not me. She was a construct, a mask, a ghost stitched together from my insecurities. I whispered, "The girl they follow never existed." My reflection in the mirror smiled back, perfect and untouchable, while I stood broken, fading at the edges. The mask was stronger, brighter, more alive than I ever was. The scandal erupted like a storm I couldn't outrun. Emily said, "They know everything now." David said, "Good, at least you're finally famous for something." His tone was cruel, his smirk unforgiving. Jessica said, "This isn't fame, this is destruction." Her voice cracked as she read the headlines scrolling endlessly across her phone. I whispered, "It's all crashing down." My chest heaved. The sound of 1,000 voices tearing me apart echoing in my ears. Fans screamed betrayal, brands cut ties, and the world I built in lies was now crumbling in public. The ghost whispered, "This is the price of wearing me." I felt myself unraveling thread by thread as my empire collapsed into dust. Anger spilled out of me like fire I couldn't control. Emily shouted, "You ruined me!" David said, "No, you ruined yourself." His voice was sharp, cutting deeper than truth. Jessica said, "Stop, both of you. This isn't helping." Her hands shook as she reached between us. I felt rage boiling in my veins, a fury louder than fear, hotter than shame. I slammed my phone down, screen cracking like my reflection. The ghost whispered, "Break everything, it won't silence me." My breath came in short bursts, my throat raw from screaming. For the first time I wasn't crying, I was burning. The betrayal deepened in silence, sharper than any shout. Emily said, "You both used me." Jessica whispered, "I never wanted to hurt you." Tears streaked her face, her words brittle like glass. David said, "Stop pretending you're innocent. You wanted the spotlight too." My stomach churned as truth twisted into venom. The ghost whispered, "Everyone fed on me, but you gave them the feast." I whispered, "You were my family, my friend, my anchor." My voice shook, a knife between grief and rage. The silence that followed was suffocating, heavy enough to crush me into the floor. In private, collapse came like a tidal wave. Emily said, "I can't breathe." My chest heaved, heart pounding against ribs like a drum of panic. David said, "This is weakness, not collapse." His words were cruel, dismissive. Jessica said, "She needs help, not your cruelty." Her voice was frantic, trembling with desperation. I curled against the wall, knees pressed to my chest, breaths sharp and broken. My phone buzzed on the floor, endless alerts flashing like alarms of my downfall. The ghost whispered, "You can't escape me. Collapse is my home." My vision blurred, my hands cold, my body trembling as silence swallowed me whole. The breaking point wasn't a scream, it was silence. Emily whispered, "I don't want this anymore." David said, "Then you're nothing without it." His tone cut sharp, final. Jessica said, "You're more than this mask." Her voice trembled, as if she was pleading for me to believe. The ghost whispered, "You'll never be free. I am the only one they see." My body shook as tears blurred my vision. The world outside roared with judgment, but inside the room I crumbled in silence. My breath came shallow, my hands trembled, and I realized this was it. The end of the empire, the end of the illusion, the moment I shattered beyond repair. The aftermath was quiet, too quiet. Emily said, "There's nothing left to hide behind." David said, "Without the mask, you're worthless." His tone was flat, final, but his eyes betrayed unease. Jessica said, "She's not worthless, she's human." Her voice carried a fragile hope. I sat among the ruins of my online empire, the glow of screens now dark, the silence deafening. I whispered, "I thought I wanted to be remembered, but I only wanted to be real." The ghost whispered, "You can't escape me, but maybe you can live beside me." My heart trembled, as if it was relearning how to beat without applause. The weight of reflection pressed heavier than fame ever did. Emily said, "Every lie was a brick, and I built my own prison." David said, "You still had everything people dream of." His words tasted of envy more than truth. Jessica said, "Dreams built on lies always collapse." Her voice carried grief and strength. I stared at old photos on my screen, her face, the ghost's face, smiling back brighter than mine. I whispered, "She took everything, but she isn't me." The silence that followed wasn't cruel anymore. It was honest. The ghost whispered, "I'll always be here, but now you know my name." Choice stood before me, sharp as a blade. Emily said, "Do I keep lying, or do I finally stop?" David said, "If you stop, you disappear." His voice was harsh, demanding. Jessica said, "If you stop, you finally breathe." My chest rose and fell with trembling breaths as I weighed freedom against fame. I whispered, "What's the cost of truth?" The ghost whispered, "The cost is everything, but the reward is yourself." My hands hovered over my phone, torn between pressing publish or delete. My reflection in the screen showed two Emilys, the mask and the girl who still ached to be seen. The ghost confronted me directly. Emily said, "You destroyed me." The ghost whispered, "No, you created me." David said, "You can't live without her now." His words were cruel, but his smirk faded. Jessica said, "You can face her." Her voice trembled but held courage. I stared into the mirror, the ghost's flawless smile glaring back while my real eyes brimmed with tears. I whispered, "I want to be real again." The ghost whispered, "Then accept me, but don't become me." For the first time, I saw her not as an enemy, but as the shadow of my fear. Resolution didn't feel like triumph, it felt like surrender. Emily said, "I may never be loved the way she was." David said, "Then you'll vanish into nothing." His tone was bitter. Jessica said, "Then vanish as yourself, not as a ghost." Her eyes glistened with conviction. I whispered, "I thought I wanted to be remembered, but now I just want to be real." The ghost whispered, "If you can live with me, maybe you can finally live at all." The silence was heavy, but it was mine. Not applause, not judgment, just silence. For the first time, it didn't scare me. The quiet aftermath felt heavier than the storm. Emily said, "It's over now." David said, "No, this is only the start of your nothingness." His tone was sharp, his smirk brittle. Jessica said, "Sometimes nothing is peace." Her words lingered, soft but powerful. I sat in my room, screens dark, the silence no longer cruel but still suffocating. The ghost whispered, "You've silenced them but not me." My chest rose with shallow breaths as I realized the noise of millions was gone, replaced by the weight of my own thoughts. I whispered, "Maybe this is freedom, or maybe it's just emptiness." The last message weighed on me like lead. Emily said, "They should hear the truth before I disappear." David said, "Truth won't save you. Silence will bury you." His voice was cold. Jessica said, "Say it, Emily, say it for yourself." Her voice cracked with urgency. I opened my phone, hands trembling, typing words that burned as they formed. I whispered, "I lied about everything and I don't want to live behind her anymore." The ghost whispered, "If you say this, I fade forever." My chest tightened, my eyes blurred with tears, but my fingers pressed send. The weight of silence after the confession was unbearable. Emily said, "They're not responding." David said, "Of course not. You've killed their illusion." His words cut deep. Jessica said, Silence doesn't mean they don't care. But the ghost whispered, they never cared about you, only me. Notifications slowed to nothing, a void where chaos once lived. I whispered, this silence feels louder than hate. My chest ached as though the world had turned its back. My identity collapsed into a hollow echo, my voice lost in digital dust. The farewell was not shouted, but whispered. Emily said, I don't want to exist online anymore. David said, then you'll vanish completely. His tone was cruel, hollow. Jessica said, let her vanish if it means she can live. Her voice was soft, breaking but resolute. I whispered into the stillness, this is my goodbye. The ghost whispered, without me you are nothing, but maybe nothing is freedom. I felt my breath steady for the first time in years. The silence embraced me like a final curtain falling on a play I never wanted to perform. The final blow was a whisper, sharp as glass. Emily said, and that's why you'll never see me online again. David said, good, because you were never real. His smirk faded into silence. Jessica said, be real for yourself now. Her voice trembled, but shone with hope. The ghost whispered, if you leave, I die. My chest rose and fell with one last heavy breath, and then silence. No more applause, no more hate, no more lies. Just silence, raw and unbroken. For the first time, it was mine.